So every single year, at the end of the year, you have your accountant would actually give you a document. And that document usually has two particular columns that matters. One column is the income, which is obviously really important when you're running a business. And the second is the expense. The income traditionally in a chiropractic practice is very small and very short because typically in a chiropractic practice it's really just the chiropractic adjustments and any other stuff that you actually sell or provide as a service. The other list though is much longer. That other list is your expense list. That list, that long list, are all the things you need to spend to provide the services that generate the income. Now you think about, if you look through that list though, what do you typically see as you scan through the numbers on that list? Is that there's 2 or 3 items on that list that usually stand out because they're the largest and they're the biggest amount. Well, those 2 costs are usually 2 things in a chiropractic business. One is, in any business, usually is rent, and the second thing is usually staff salary. What's important to note about that is that those 2 lines could typically be an expense or it could be an investment. And the distinction between the 2 is really important because you need to look at what causes that and whether that is a cost to you or is an investment. There's another item on that list that should say training. And when you look at that training section and go ask us, how much are you spending per year on training your staff? And I guarantee you that for most practices, they don't spend a lot. And why is that case? I mean, when you think about if your staff is a cost to you, only if it's a cost to you if you don't actually invest in them, because they're people. And you need people and your team to run your business. And if you don't spend any amount of money, right, to invest in the most valuable asset that you have, which is one of your biggest expense on your expense P&L, which is your team, your salary, then what are you spending your money on? So you think about the amount of training that you actually do within your staff. Think about how much money do you actually spend on your team members to upgrade their skill, to allow them to communicate better, and also be able to explain and actually generate patients for you. If you don't spend any amount of energy or and time on your team that costs you the most, you're wasting it. It becomes a cost. And there's a difference between a cost and investment. Think about how many seminars, training sessions, and events have you ever attended in the last, 3, 5, 20 years if you've been in practice for that long. Why? Because we constantly upgrading ourselves. But when you think about companies like Apple, we all been to an Apple store where those people, all the staff members wearing these blue shirts, they have to go through at least 4 to 9 weeks of training before they're even allowed on the store. Why? Because they want to train them not just in the skills and the systems, but they want to train them on the culture. That's the key element. You see, you might have daily meetings and weekly meetings and say, well, I'm doing my training. But the problem is that you're training on systems and things that they can learn on their own, or things that you want them to do. It's almost like listening to our parents. We kind of hear them, but we don't actually listen to them. Well, the staff may feel the same way. The key element is that the mentality that I think a lot of chiropractors are making that's causing a lot of problems is that you're investing so much on you being the best version, like the best person. You're the biggest contributor because you are the chiropractor, you're providing all the services and you're running staff and you're the leader, and I get that. But the problem with that mentality is that you put all that energy investment into yourself and your own training and not to your staff. What happens then is that mentality requires you to be everything, which means you're the visionary, you're the integrator, you're the person who does sales and marketing, you're the person who does the finances, and you're the one who's doing operations. And then now the practice relies on you. If you're not available in terms of being there, then all of a sudden your team members are not reliable to be able to fulfill that. Because if you're the only person who's able to provide that service, that's a huge problem and challenge. You can never achieve what we call a freedom practice when you're the only person who's able to contribute to your team. Thanks for watching this video. If you haven't already done so, that subscribe button, you should press it. And because I want to share videos with you just like this one to help you grow your practice.